Hi everyone, I'm your host Lee Dahill, as you know, for Property Podcast today. I'm joined by Gary Wright from Flatfair. We're going to be talking about deposit alternatives and some other good stuff. But as you all know, I like my guests to do their own introduction because I can never do it as good as them. So Gary, can you give us a little bit of an overview of yourself and Flatfair before I ask some of the questions?
Yeah, will do. Thanks, Lee. I'm Gary Wright, CEO of Flatfair. Been with Flatfair just over 4 years now, and we're really on a journey to revolutionise the deposit space in the UK by offering our no deposit alternative product to the market. And it's exciting to share some information with you about what we're doing and why it's moving forward and why the product's so great, really. So, very much I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Gary. And that leads nicely on, to be honest, onto the popularity around deposit alternatives. They've gained a lot of traction in recent years. What do you think is driving that popularity?
I think it's really booming now, or really starting to grow in traction because it's really solving a problem for everyone. So obviously we all know about the cost of living crisis. It's never been more difficult for tenants to afford to rent, and our no deposit alternative gives them the choice of significant upfront saving, which allows them to keep thousands of pounds in their pocket to spend on whatever else they need in terms of that move in and those early weeks, which are always difficult. But in addition, it's obviously giving landlords additional protection and an additional choice. So obviously it has to be given out as a choice, and for some landlords, for some tenants, it's not the choice for them, but ultimately it's giving them that option of choice, and it gives them up to 10 weeks protection. Obviously the cash deposit's capped at 5 weeks. So for landlords, it's very attractive to know that our service gives them extra protection and supports them as well at the end of the tenancy process. And ultimately for agents, it allows them to differentiate themselves in the market. It allows them to give their landlords that additional opportunity to give themselves more protection. And obviously it's great that their tenants get that choice when coming to decide how they transact their deposit. So I think really, as the industry has understood it and the market understands the benefits, and there's really a benefit for everyone, it's naturally gaining a lot more traction and becoming much more common in the marketplace.
And from your perspective, what do you think's sort of broken about the traditional deposit scheme?
Well, I think, broken's a strong word, but ultimately, before choice came in with a no deposit, ultimately you only had one choice, which was to leave a considerable sum of money locked away in a deposit scheme for potentially years with the hope you'll get it back one day. And there's billions of pounds locked up. And that can't be good for everyone. And therefore, that having no other choice is not where the world's moving to. In the same way, landlords are stuck with their 5 weeks rent, which doesn't really reflect the full risk. Obviously, if things do go wrong, it can often go well beyond the 5 weeks and cause them a lot of problems. So you add in the process around cash deposits is still fairly clunky. The end of tenancy process is fairly slow and drawn out, and really, it's not fit for the modern digital world we live in now. And that's where someone like Flatfair has been able to come in, digitalize the process, really deal with all of those challenges, and package that up into one neat solution.
And say, for example, on the sort of affordability side of it, how much of a difference can deposit alternatives make to renters' upfront costs?
Well, they'll be saving over 70% having to find a £1,500 deposit. In reality, they're going to end up with over £1,000 of that left in their back pocket to go and spend on other things. So it's a very significant upfront saving at a time where costs are extremely high for tenants. It's a very welcome opportunity to not have to leave as much money in that time period. So yeah, it's extremely significant, which is why, when offered it, 50% of tenants generally choose to take out a no deposit over leaving a cash deposit because they can see that value.
And beyond the saving money, what other benefits do you think tenants experience when using products like a Flatfair's no deposit?
First and foremost, I'm a firm believer in choice, and I think tenants should have a choice. And if they choose not to take a no deposit, then so be it. That's their choice. If they feel that cash is the right route for them, then they should take that. But ultimately, giving tenants the flexibility to choose what's best for them is the number one advantage.
Yes.
In addition, it's in the name Flatfair. We are fair and transparent. We make sure that the end of tenancy process is fast, quick, fair, and that the tenant and the landlord get a fair and reasonable outcome, and any problems at the other end, any damages, any rent arrears and so on are fairly resolved, and the money is paid away as required. So we make sure that the tenant is getting our full support throughout the journey, as does the landlord. So overall, yes, probably the significant benefit is the cash saving at the front end. There are lots more benefits around choice and the end of tenancy process that appeal to our tenants as well.
Let's just look at the landlord for a second. So how does the deposit alternative strengthen protection and reduce the risk compared to, say, a standard cash deposit?
Well, simply that in the worst case scenario, if a tenant were to do damage, let's just focus on damage rather than rent for now. If to do damage over 5 weeks, our product can protect them for up to 10 weeks. So we will obviously attempt to collect that money for them, and we'll establish that amount owed. We'll try and collect it for them, and if the tenant doesn't pay, we can step in and buy up to 10 weeks worth of that damages from them and put them back in pocket, and then we will deal with the tenant separately. So that's a very important element. And in addition to that, we will attempt to collect anything over that 10 weeks on behalf of the landlord, which is a significant benefit to them. Otherwise, they'd have to go through the court system or do their own process to try and collect any monies over the 5 weeks. So that is a really significant benefit, and one of the key attractions for landlords to using flatfair.
I can see that. And do landlords see the sort of practical advantages such as faster lets, fewer void periods when using someone like flatfair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they market their products with a no deposit like flatfair available on it, then clearly they get a wider range of tenants who are interested. The tenancy will move through faster because they don't have to go and work out how they're going to sort of find the 1,500 quid or the £2,000 deposit. So they'll definitely get more inquiries. The lets move through faster, and they'll have ultimately fewer void periods, which is clearly a very beneficial position to be in. So in what remains a competitive market, then offering a no deposit alternative like flatfair certainly can be the deciding factor between a property being left a bit longer or let quite rapidly.
With letting agents being central for adoption in this process, how should they present the deposit alternative as a genuine value add? How do you think they should position it?
Well, I think this is just sort of going, look, this isn't replacing the cash deposit, which obviously their landlords will understand and have worked with for many years, I'm sure. This is about really framing it as choice and flexibility. So you're allowing choice and flexibility to go into the process while offering yourself, obviously, those benefits of extra protection levels, and ultimately working in a more modern way that reflects today's marketplace. Obviously, it allows them to, again, push the benefit of supporting tenant affordability, but helping the landlords let the properties faster, again, avoiding those void times, without adding any risk into the portfolio, and ultimately increasing the security from a landlord point of view. So really, it's an easy one for agents to position as a sort of win-win. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to use it.
And what kind of training or support do you offer the agents?
Yeah, I mean, that's an important one, and we obviously know they're busy and they're working on many parts of the process. We make it super simple. We obviously give them their full onboarding, whatever training they require, the marketing materials. They have a dedicated flatfair account manager if they've got any problems or issues. Our platform, we're a technology-first business, is designed to work seamlessly into their current workflows. So there's no extra admin. We're integrated with many of the major CRM providers in the market. So often it can even be directly through from their CRM platform. So basically we are making it as easy and straightforward as possible for an agent to offer this choice to their tenants, and with little to no disruption to their admin at all.
And with trust being, a huge important in any business, but for this part, how do you reassure landlords and tenants that disputes will be handled fairly?
Well, like I say, I think ultimately our initial goal is to have, we have a very simple, transparent system where any sort of charges are pushed through and negotiations can be happening on that platform And our primary aim is to stop it getting to a dispute. But obviously, in cases where there is a dispute, then ultimately they're handled by our own independent adjudicators who follow exactly the same rules as cash deposit, government cash deposit providers follow, looking at exactly the same evidence in the same way. So transparency and independence is vital, and it gives those landlords and the tenants the confidence, I guess, that the outcome will be basically fair, which is what I go back to that word fair, fair and balanced, and ultimately would be, I would expect it to be the same as if they had gone through a similar process through a cash deposit scheme.
I want to talk to you about deposit boost and why you've introduced that. So can you tell us a little bit more about it and the further protection it gives landlords?
Yeah, so deposit boost really came about through, obviously, landlords are continuing to look at what protection they can have. And as I say, a no deposit is a choice. It's not just a choice for the landlord, it's a choice for the tenant, and not all tenants choose to take it. So what that leaves is a lot of landlords still have only a 5-week cash deposit to fall back on, and they still have to go through the sort of hassle of chasing the tenant if there's any charges over the 5 weeks and dealing with the sort of admin involved in doing that. So landlord boost is really coming in to fill that gap. So accepting that, a fair proportion of lets will always have a cash deposit sitting on them. This is a service that sits above cash deposits that allows landlords to get an extra 5 weeks protection, and also to leave flatfair to deal with the tenant and actually look to collect that extra money and handle any charges that have gone over and above the 5 weeks cash deposit that they'd be holding. So really, this is us reacting to feedback from partners and from landlords that they love the fact that the 10-week protection is within our no deposit, but how can they get it if there's only a cash deposit in place? Boost is that missing bit of the protection, whereby now landlords have got the option to take out some additional protection to cover all eventualities, I guess, at the end of tenancy.
And finally, let's look at 5 years ahead. What role do you see deposit alternatives playing in the UK rental market? I know it's a hard question to ask, and I'm asking you to predict the future, but what's your prediction for 5 years ahead?
I think it's going to become more and more mainstream, and it's going to be moving more from an option to an expectation. So I think there's going to be more of a, well, hang on a minute, why haven't I got a choice? In the same way mobile contracts started off as you paid a big payment all up front, and now you pay them over months or whatever. I think it's going to move in that direction because, tenants want flexibility, they want choice, they want affordability. I don't see the fundamental affordability around the rental space getting any better anytime soon. There's going to continually be a real pressure on tenants, especially when they're moving in. And I think the landlords are going to continue to want to know they've got the right level of protection for those tenants that do cause any issues that need dealing with. So I generally see, and I certainly hope, that it will become completely mainstream. And my ultimate hope is, regardless of flatfair, is every single tenant gets given the choice. Yep. And therefore they get to choose what works for them best. And if they choose to leave cash, that's fine. But if they choose to take out a no deposit alternative such as flatfair, that's fine as well. And I think that's where we're heading. Whether we'll get to 100% adoption in 5 years, time will tell, but certainly good progress is being made. And I do see it getting to the stage where it becomes a normal part of renting and is not having to be debated or considered as a sort of niche. A few people offer it, but it's ultimately still a bit of a niche thing that's out there, just offered by a few agents and landlords. So, and that can only be better, because when is choice not good? When is choice not a good thing?
I agree with you. I think the more choice there is for whatever you're doing, the better the options are for the person, whatever they're doing. So I agree with you. I think choice, and I think that would be a nice thing for the industry, is that the person gets to make the decision that's right for them, not that it's only this. It's a choice of what would be best for you based on your circumstance. What would you like to take? I think that's a good message.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's buying a car. You have some ways to pay for it. Why shouldn't you have a choice of ways to leave a deposit?
Yep. There's 100%. When you look at a car, when you look many years ago, you could pay, now you've got PCP, you've got HP, you've got leasing, you've got buying the car. There's so many different versions that you can do for the car that's right for you. You know, like some people don't want to own a car; they just want to lease it. They don't want to pay the
Yeah,
bumper payment at the end. They don't want to pay the option. So I think you're right. Choice is a good thing for the industry, and I think that's a
yeah,
good thing to leave it on, Gary. I think that's a good sentiment. So I want
yeah.
to thank you for taking the time. Thank you for explaining everything. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's really good to chat to you. And yeah, let's leave it on the word choice, and let's hope more and more people get that choice in the coming years.
Speak to you soon, Gary. Thank you very much.
Thanks. See ya.